How did it come to this? It's something I think that we all asked ourselves when we first saw this. Sayori, the happiest girl in the club, ending her life in the noose of a rope. It came out of left field, and I think that's why a lot of us remember it the way that we do. It was unexpected. It marked the end of the innocent happiness that Doki Doki Literature Club provided. So I ask the question again. How did it come to this? Well, a mod for Literature Club named Doki Doki Rainclouds aims to answer that question. What I expected was that it would be sad, but what I didn't expect was just how thought-provoking the experience would end up becoming for me.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but Hangman has always been my favorite game.
Basically, all Rainclouds is a standalone mod for Doki Doki Literature Club. It reuses a lot of assets from Literature Club, but it also features a lot of new backgrounds and images and stuff. Sure, some of the backgrounds may not fit well with Literature Club's style, but it'd be kind of insane to expect one person to draw all these extra backgrounds. I do like the new scenes though. They all vary and they are beautiful to look at. Rainclouds keeps the same UI, although slightly tweaked, and is basically just a visual novel at this point. Nothing dating sim related really exists in this mod. One cool little addition Rainclouds adds is the option to have text-to-speech. It's definitely interesting.
Self-voicing enabled.
I mean, it's nice that it's included to help people that have a hard time hearing, but the voice doesn't really work all the time.
Monica, good timing. I was just about ready to start with sharing our poems.
Upon loading the game, it's clear that this game isn't trying to fool the player like Literature Club did. Whereas that game had happy music in the beginning to lull the player into a false sense of happiness, Rainclouds doesn't hide what it's trying to do. Rainclouds wants the player to know immediately what it's all about, and it perfectly sets the mood for what's to come. The game doesn't shy away from presenting Sayori's depression at all. The first few lines of the game make it clear that Sayori is in a bad place. She says in Literature Club that she's always had really bad depression throughout her entire life, but I never really put that much thought into what that actually meant for her everyday life. In Rainclouds, she wakes up in her school uniform because she doesn't see much of a point in changing them. She doesn't prepare herself for the day by eating breakfast, taking a shower, or even brushing her teeth. She just sees the main character from Literature Club walking outside and goes out to walk with him like she does in the original game. After this, I'm not able to see the opening scene of the Literature Club the same way again. Now that I know how much Sayori had to struggle to even get out of bed just to greet the player, it made me feel even worse for her. Raincloud's description of Sayori made me notice a few things about her sprite that I just hadn't noticed before. At first, all I noticed was that her blazer was open, but after looking at her again, I saw how ruffled and loose Sayori's collar was. All the other girls' collars looked like they at least gave themselves a couple of minutes to get dressed. Even Sayori's hair looks messier than the other girls'. It's a bit difficult to tell because of the anime style, but the other girls have much smoother hair than Sayori. Sayori's is more spiky and wild looking. The entire game is based in Act 1 of Literature Club, from Tuesday all the way to Monday. We get to talk to Yuri, Natsuki, Monica, and the main character through Sayori. This means that we get to see a lot of stuff that we've never seen before, like what Sayori did in between the club meetups and during the weekends, but this also means that a lot of dialogue is repeated. Even when Sayori isn't a part of the conversation, like when the main character is talking to Natsuki about the poem she wrote, it still goes through their entire conversation, just with a bit of Sayori's thoughts sprinkled here and there. The game says that it's because Sayori is just sitting at her desk eavesdropping, but I'm left wondering why she isn't showing her poem to the other girls. The game also mentions that it's weird that only the main character is showing the poem to everybody else, but that doesn't excuse the missed opportunity for Sayori to have conversations with the other girls while the main character is busy showing off his poem. I just found myself quickly going through these repeated lines just to slow down when Sayori spoke. Though it is cool to see what the protagonist looks like, but he does look a little funny when standing next to the other girls. His proportions look normal enough, but compared to the other girls' proportions, I just don't really know how to feel about it. I want to say that about a fourth of the game is just Literature Club again, and most of these moments are its weakest because it's held hostage by Literature Club's own plots. Thankfully, Raincloud shines when it's allowed to be original. Anytime Sayori is out of the club room, Rainclouds is allowed to be creative, and it does an amazing job here. The player really gets to see what's going on inside Sayori's mind, and it's really interesting what goes on in there. Rainclouds makes Sayori feel like such a real person. The clumsy and childish character that she appeared to be in Literature Club instead is shown to be a person with very complex emotions on the inside. What she goes through and how she reacts to them just feels so real. It's hard not to feel for her when things go badly. Sayori earns for companionship. She makes it very clear that she wants to hang out with her friends. She wants to talk with them and have fun, but her mind is always turning those thoughts off by thinking that she'd just be wasting their time with her. Even when Sayori is with her friends, she thinks that they just don't really like her and that she somehow messed everything up and they hate her even more now. It's disheartening to read because I know it's just Sayori's mind playing tricks on her. There's a certain line on Wednesday that really stings. Everyone looks at me and smiles. They wave at me. I wave back. I'm pretty sure they're not even happy to see me. It's not even funny how deep in the rabbit hole Sayori is, because that's such a real thought. I remember being a very unconfident kid who just figured that no one was ever super excited when they saw me. It's a small thought, but it can grow into something much bigger if you let it keep growing. So, have you ever met a cute girl who has zero confidence for some reason? That's Sayori in a nutshell. In a lot of ways, she sounds like a moody high schooler. Her love for the protagonist is shown through the eyes of a teenage girl, and it feels so much like a high school crush. She wonders what he's doing, if he's thinking about her, and if her feelings are fooling her. While I don't really know what it's like to love your childhood guy friend, it most likely feels a lot like how I wondered as a high schooler if the girl I liked me in the same way. It becomes clear very fast that she's gone through a lot with him. They're childhood friends and share a deep and rich history of each other. The protagonist bought Sayori her ribbon, they played in the park a lot, he bought her Parfait Girls that Natsuki also reads, and he even saved her life once when she fell into a river. She dearly holds on to these memories, because the present just doesn't feel like that to her anymore. As the two grew older, the main character started spending more and more time in the room, and started spending less time with Sayori. One can only assume that he's just been binging on games and anime. This is what leads Sayori to ask the protagonist to join the literature club because she misses him, but this also ends up being her downfall as her love for the main character interferes with her main goal of making everyone happy. If she dates him, then the other girls in the club will get sad that the protagonist didn't choose them. Making people happy is Sayori's only coping mechanism for her depression, and without that, she has no way of coping. The main character comes off as cold to Sayori in Rainclouds. It's a combination of him actually being kind of a dick and Sayori's own mind playing tricks on her. Since I played as him in the Literature Club, I didn't really notice that the things that he was saying could be taken the wrong way. As a guy, admittedly, I've done similar things to what the main character does, but seeing it from Sayori's perspective made me realize that it could come across the wrong way. He never means bad, but it's just that he's a high school kid and he's thick-headed, just like all high school guys. The conflict she has within herself, with a he loves me not type of mentality, is a large contributing factor to Sayori's depression, with the source of her depression being that she wants to make everyone happy, and keeps her depression a secret from everybody. Rainclouds does something interesting, as it makes the main character go 100% down Natsuki's romance route. This means that the main character doesn't spend that much time with Sayori. Every day when the main character is choosing who to show his poem to, he always chooses Sayori last, which, timeout. Sayori is literally the first person on the list in Literature Club. How do you constantly choose her last, dude? He's literally going out of his way 3 times in a row not to pick her. Even on Friday when she's physically upset, he leaves her for last. Joking aside, having the player character go for Natsuki fully from a writer's perspective makes it very easy to show the player that Sayori doesn't feel like the main character appreciates her. This feeling causes her to spend a lot of time by herself, and it's when Sayori is truly alone I feel really connected to her the most. Sayori enjoys being alone. In this way, she feels like nobody has to be bothered by her dragging them down. She likes spending time outside and dislikes being inside cramped rooms. She's able to focus better when breathing fresh air. The further she is from her house and school, where her main problems lie, the happier she gets. The music almost always instantly changes to a somber tune the second Sayori is alone. It's music that's relatable. I say it's relatable because there's been times where I've been hanging out with my friends, and then when everyone leaves and I'm by myself, I wish I was still with them instead of being alone. These moments alone with Sayori, as she thinks about life, just feel so genuine. Day 2 after the club is when Rainclouds really starts rolling, and it's because we get a little moment with Sayori watching the sunset, just thinking about life. She tells these stories about her past, like how she met the girls, and how much simpler her life used to be. It's heartwarming to listen to. It's small moments like these where I know that she's truly the most happiest with herself. Every slight hope and piece of happiness Sayori feels is compelling. However, Sayori is a little contradictory of her enjoyment of being by herself. Sayori also feels lonely. When by herself, she constantly wants the main character to be there with her, to make her feel happier, while at the same time, she feels like whenever she's around him, she's just a burden. This is the type of sadness I feel like someone would have to have gone through to make it feel as genuine as it feels. I couldn't imagine making a mod like this believable. You can't fake this type of depression in the writing department. It's something you have to go through. I spoke with the developer Cykadev, and they said that a lot of this game was pulled from their own experiences. It's unsurprising then why so much of this game just feels like it comes from the heart. The sad reality of Sayori's depression though is that it's not all her fault. Whenever Sayori feels even an inch of happiness, someone else has something in mind.
Here's Monica's writing tip of the day. Remember, a good noose starts with a tight knot.
Throughout the first day of the game, Sayori's life seems pretty mundane. Nothing odd or strange happens, but all that ends when she goes to sleep.
Sayori.
It all starts through nightmares with someone speaking to her. The voice is saying things like how worthless she is and how nobody really likes her. Sayori is terrified when this first happens. She starts crying uncontrollably. And then when she wakes up, Sayori has no idea what the nightmare was about, but she believed what the thing told her, that she really is a worthless nobody. The first time Sayori had a nightmare is when I truly started to become unsettled. Sayori's depression was already bad enough, but with some random graphical glitches and now nightmares, I was starting to become unnerved. As the week progresses, Sayori's encounters with the paranormal increases, but it isn't a physical problem until Thursday. Monica asks Sayori to get some supplies from a classroom so we can make some stuff for the festival that's coming up. Sayori ends up in a dark and empty classroom by herself. She gathers supplies, but suddenly she feels a presence in the room with her.
Hello.
A shadow is in the room with her and repeats the same mean dialogue Sayori's nightmares have been telling her, that she's a terrible person and how the main character will never like her because of how awful of a person she is. Sayori thinks that she's going crazy and she's horrified of what she's seeing. She just wants the shadow to go away.
You're worthless. It's as simple as that.
Little does Sayori realize, but the person that she idols the most, Monica, is the source of all of this. Literature Club never showed directly what Monica was doing with the girls, but we could tell that she was messing with them, though we never saw what she was actually doing to them. Rainclouds changes all of that. Anytime Monica is on the screen, be scared. She doesn't try to hide her true evil self like she does with the main character. Instead, we get to see the real and disturbing side of Monica. We witness how she manipulates and drives Sayori closer and closer to the abyss. Monica isn't a clueless coder who's just messing with the girls' personalities. She's smarter and more cunning than that. She just hides all of that so that the main character never sees the bad side of her. This is the part of Monica I've always wanted to see since my first time playing Literature Club. There were some scenes that showed Monica's true self in the original game, like her slowly fading in if the player catches Yuri cutting herself a second time, and the most obvious scene of how scary Monica actually is when she jump scares the player. It's hard to see Monica the same way after seeing all she does to Sayori, and I can only assume that she did the same with the other girls as well. Monica is like a cat playing with a mouse. Yeah, the cat is cute, but what it's doing is actually pretty morbid when you think about it. It's playing with its victim until it dies. For the mouse, it's goddamn terrifying. The reason why Monica works so well is that she plays off of Rainclouds' greatest asset, which is Sayori. Sayori herself really is the greatest part of this game. I feel like Monica is messing with Sayori in more ways than we're able to see. At some points, random graphical glitches occur, and Sayori changes her train of thought. So what Monica is doing is a lot more complex than what I'm able to piece together right now. This game is more horrific than Literature Club. Rainclouds is pretty much just 6 to 8 hours of Literature Club's second act, but in the normalcy of Act 1. It's a lot more straightforward with its horror elements than Literature Club, and that's not a bad thing. It doesn't constantly throw scary stuff at the player, but instead it waits for the right moment to strike, and what it does, it honestly feels at the level of Natsuki's neck snapping moment, or worse each time. That is a goddamn impressive feat to reach. I was legit scared while playing this. It's after Sayori's encounter of the shadow that she really begins to break apart. At least with the nightmares, Monika never messed with her outside of them, but now Sayori isn't even safe when she's awake. In Literature Club, we were playing a game that was slowly breaking apart, but in Rainclouds, we're playing as a character that is slowly breaking apart. It only gets worse once Monika forces Sayori to take a piece of rope from that same dark classroom. At the beginning of the game, Sayori has a few thoughts about killing herself, but she always quickly snaps out of it, such as staring at a river and realizing how easy it'd be to end it all if she just jumped in, but quickly backpedals. As the game progresses though, she goes from not wanting to die at all to just not wanting to die so that she doesn't make people sad. She loses the will to live. In both scenarios, whenever she does think about committing suicide, she thinks about how meaningless it would be. She'd never have to feel pain again or worry about disappointing other people. It's a dangerous thought to have because she completely ignores the process that she'd have to take to end her own life. It wouldn't be painless. It wouldn't be like it's nothing. But she's so far down the rabbit hole that she doesn't realize that what she's saying is crazy talk. At one point in the game, she ends up stabbing herself with a pair of scissors out of frustration. She never eats, and even once can't walk because of how hungry she is. Another odd thing Sayori does is draw a picture of herself and the main character hanging from a tree together. By Friday, she's so exhausted and distraught that she leaves class early. She runs far, far away from school and ends up in a forest by herself. A hallucination of Monika, Natsuki, and Yuri appear, telling Sayori how much they don't like her. The scene isn't scary, it's just eerie. It's Monika toying with Sayori, but at the same time, it feels like Sayori's inner demon's talking to her as well. A few minutes later, she falls into a river and stays underwater for a little bit, thinking about not surfacing, but eventually convinces herself that she can't die here. I know I said I love it when Sayori's by herself because I get to hear her thoughts, but admittedly, I felt more comfortable when around other people. I know I'm safe when around the others, and I think Cykadev did a great job at mirroring Sayori's feelings onto the player, because I know that bad things are bound to happen when she's alone, and Sayori knows that too. Her depression and anxiety grows when she's by herself. There aren't many happy moments in this game, but when they do happen, I felt instantly grateful for them. Sayori goes to a theater to watch a movie of Natsuki, and goes to see Euro Falls with Yuri on Saturday. Both of these moments felt so nice to experience because of the insanity that I was allowed to escape from. It's obvious that Sayori really does care a lot about her friends, it's just that she doesn't know if they feel the same way about her. I wanted Sayori to get together with the main character because I knew if that happened, then she'd finally have someone there for her. Unfortunately, happy thoughts are only that. Thoughts. Sayori faces the cruel reality of the world on Sunday. On that day, she wakes up and sees that the main character texted her saying that he's coming over. With no time to make herself look nice, she waits for him to enter the room. The encounter between these two play out just like how it did in Literature Club. Sayori is metaphorically pushed against the wall by the protagonist's questions about what's wrong with her. She reveals everything about her depression and is screaming inside her head that everything that she's worked towards will be ruined now. Everyone will know that she's depressed and sad and will have to worry about her. No matter what the main character says, she doesn't want help. He really does try his best to cheer her up here. I always felt like his character made a sharp 180 with how compassionate he is here. And it only comes off stronger here from Sayori's point of view. She's scared and just wants him to stay there with her. The main character wants to stay too, but he has to go help Natsuki bake cupcakes and leaves. After he leaves, Sayori walks downstairs and notices that the door is unlocked. While wondering if the main character left the door open like that, Monika appears.
Hi, I'm Monika. I'm super excited for you to make friends with everyone and help the Literature Club become a more intimate place for all my club members. Except Sayori. But I can tell already that you're a sweetheart. Will you promise to spend the most time with me?
It all begins well. Monika needs Sayori's help with setting up things for the festival, and they go buy some supplies. They go to a store and get some crayons and some rope, and begin heading back to Sayori's house. Instead of going the fastest way back, however, Monika suggests that they take a more scenic route across a bridge. While on the bridge, Monika looks out the sky and talks about how beautiful the day looks. Then she mutters to Sayori, "Why don't you just jump?" Monika explains to Sayori why she should kill herself. She says that it would just be so easy. Just one simple jump. Monika asks Sayori if she's feeling okay. Sayori has a hard time remembering what just happened, but she faintly remembers Monika telling her to jump. She's convinced that she's going crazy. She can't believe that her good friend would tell her to do such a thing. When the two return to Sayori's house, Monika reveals that she knows that Sayori is depressed. She says that she knows how Sayori feels and rolls up her sleeve to reveal a long cut on her arm. She says that no matter what happens, she, the rest of the girls, and the main character will always be there for her. Sayori feels moved by Monika's words and starts to believe that maybe there is some hope for her.
Don't tell me you believe this, Sayori. Oh god, you're much more naive than I thought. I'm just playing with you. You're nothing but a tool, a pawn in my game. Did you seriously expect things to get better? Everything would be so much better if you just stopped existing.
But Monika was just playing a mean trick on her. She forces Sayori to write a poem for the festival. She writes a poem titled "Get Out of My Head."
There we go. I knew you'd be able to do it.
Monika is happy with the poem and leaves. Sayori can't take the stress anymore and wants to go see the main character. As she leaves her house, she sees him and Natsuki saying goodbye. She sees Natsuki getting really close to him, but before anything can happen, Sayori interrupts and Natsuki leaves embarrassed. Here, Sayori confesses that she really likes the main character, while at the same time screaming at herself that she's doing the wrong thing. She feels like she's being selfish and stealing the main character away from Natsuki. To her surprise, and honestly mine as well, the main character realizes that he likes Sayori a lot too. The scene from Literature Club plays out where they hug, but Monika interrupts midway through.
So you really did it. You told him. You should be ashamed. Betraying your friend and being an even bigger burden for the person you love. You could have fixed the problem, but you decided to make it worse. You worthless thing.
The happiness Sayori felt with the protagonist accepting her confession is now gone, and is instead replaced by guilt. When they're done, they say goodbye to each other, and Sayori glances back at him one last time before entering her house. Once inside, all the feelings that Sayori had been feeling come bursting out unlike anything before. She grabs her scissors and proceeds to cut her arm over and over and over again. Sayori sees this as a punishment for being selfish. She washes her arm and goes to sleep.
I know you were expecting me. You're not even surprised anymore, are you? I know how you feel, Sayori. I know everything about you. And all the things you say you've done, they're true. You've hurt everyone, yet you're not doing anything to fix your mistakes. You know what you have to do to fix everything. You still have a chance to do it. One last chance until your entire world shatters to pieces. Don't waste it.
Sayori wakes up screaming as she knows what the dream meant. She's lost the will to keep going. Sayori blames herself for going against everything that she stands for. She just wants people to be happy, but in her mind, by confessing her love to the main character and him accepting it, will cause Natsuki and the other girls to be sad and hate her. She just wants everyone to be happy. But eventually, Sayori can't think any more happy thoughts. She can only think of one way to fix the mistakes that she's caused. She opens her closet and sees the rope that she took resting on the ground. She describes it as looking like it was waiting for her, like it knew its time had finally come. She ties it to her ceiling fan and places a chair underneath it. Staring at it, terrified, she decides to write a note. She grabs a piece of paper and a pencil and writes a very simple sentence. Now everyone can be happy. The tear-stained note isn't for herself, it's something to leave behind for the main character, to make sense of it all. She stands on her chair, sobbing. She doesn't want to die, but it's the only thing that she can think of to not make the main character suffer with her anymore, and to fix the rest of her mistakes. The music that plays here while Sayori is preparing for the end sounds like someone about to end their life and contemplating it all. With two hands, she places the noose around her neck. Here, Sayori is given a choice. She can either end it, or realize that she wants to live. So let's say Sayori goes down the route of wanting to live. While standing there, with the noose around her neck, the feeling that she wants to live increases. She starts crying and thinks about the main character. She begins to wonder if maybe this is the wrong thing to do. She's acting so fast and hasn't even considered any other options to fix what she's done. What if I can be happy, she thinks to herself.
Lies.
It doesn't matter what Sayori wants, she ends up deciding for herself. She kicks the chair from underneath herself. Unfortunately, Sayori chose the hard way out on accident. She wasn't that high up, so her neck didn't snap, Instead, she ended up asphyxiating herself. At first, Sayori accepts what's happening. The pain isn't anything more than she's already felt before. It's something that she can endure as her punishment. She feels oddly calm. She wonders how long it'll be until somebody finds her and what she'll look like. This final act will finally allow the main character to be happy. Then she begins to panic. Whether it's survival instincts or regretting her choice, she tries to untie the knot. Her hands become bloody, but her hands can't get a good enough grip to untie the knot, and she begins to beg for someone to help her. She realizes that she wants to see the main character one last time. She says that she'll be a better person if she's allowed to live. Sayori isn't trying to untie the rope anymore. She's out of energy. Now she realizes that what she's done is wrong, that the most selfish act that she did was her last. All she wants now is to see the protagonist, just to see his face one last time. She tries to mutter, "I love you," as her last words, but isn't able to get it out. Rainclouds is unrelenting. I've never felt more upset or unsettled by a game before. The fact that Sayori's suicide lasts for so long makes it so uncomfortable. Literature Club hits you like a 20-ton truck, but Rainclouds opts to slowly run you over that 20-ton truck, and then it goes in reverse to run you over again, just to make sure that your soul is fully crushed. Rainclouds is more effective with its story than Literature Club because it's a personal tale. There's no weird, surreal story for the most part. It's just a story about someone dealing with depression. Even when the weird stuff does happen, it's still about Sayori's feelings. Literature Club plays with your mind. Rainclouds just destroys your mind. If Dan Silvato is a hellspawn, then Cykadev is Dan Silvato's own personal hellspawn. I wanted a happy ending, even though I knew what her fate was. I basically had to force myself to finish this game. But I was also upset for another reason. It made me reflect a lot in my own life. I'm happy right now, but after reflecting on the game and comparing it to me when I was a senior in high school, it's scary to think about how much I had in common with Sayori. I had this realization while Sayori was sitting down staring off at the sunset. I began to see just how depressed I was during my senior year, and when I realized this while playing, I froze. I had completely forgotten about this part of my life. I did a good job hiding my depression, but in all honesty, the signs were all there. It was hard for me to get out of bed each morning. I was late to my first class often, or I just wouldn't go to school at all if I'd already missed my first period. This wasn't me just missing a couple of weeks of school in total. It was more like a couple of months. I had no drive in life and I felt like I had nothing going on. I was about to go to college and leave home. I was about to leave all my friends, and who knows if I'd see them again. I didn't want anything to change. I wanted to stay a senior forever, but luckily I was able to slowly become happy again by the time I was 19, thanks to friends and just realizing that what was coming up wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be. I'm 20 now, and I'm fine. I know it can feel like a hard place to escape, this hole filled with sadness and anxiety, but it's possible to get out of it. It's only after playing Rainclouds that a part of me that I'd forgotten about and neglected was able to heal. Realizing that I used to be depressed funnily got me feeling depressed. I think it's a requirement to play after completing the original game, as it reveals so many unanswered questions. Yeah, it's not canon, but this is the best we'll get for answers as to what drove Sayori to suicide, and I don't see anything wrong with that. This mod just has so many good ideas in it that it'd be a disservice to ignore them. I like it not just because it's a sad game, not just because it's a Doki Doki mod, and not just because it's about Sayori. I liked it because it made me realize things. That was the whole point of this mod, actually. Cykadev told me that he wanted to spread awareness about depression and for people to understand what it's really like. For me, at least, it worked, so there's a silver lining at the end of all of this. I've said that games like Literature Club are important for the games industry. Well, Rainclouds is too, but for a different reason. Games like Rainclouds help people understand themselves better. Maybe it'll cause them to see a part of themselves that they just hadn't seen before, or learn how to cope with something, and maybe even both. Because every now and again, you need a little sadness in your life from time to time to give that tiny raincloud in your head a little hug. I've got good news. My next video is going to be about something happy. So, if you've made it this far, thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully I didn't ruin your mood. If you want, like and subscribe, and check out my previous video on Doki Doki Literature Club.